Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the fruit tutorial. So we are going to be working with JPEG images and what are known as PNG files, which carry transparency. So this particular tutorial will be a good opportunity to see what it's like to work with stock assets. And stock assets are great because they can teach you how to, use assets that already exist out in the world to make higher quality visual imagery, to populate your motion design with imagery that, strengthens the visual message you're trying to send. So I'm just going to type in fruit to show you where I got a lot of the files for today. So the files that we're working with today are a lot of fruit images that have backgrounds that are pretty plain and a solid color of sorts. So you're going to kind of notice that as we go through. I've provided the files for you today, but you can easily go through and find. And what I'm looking for are ones with solid backgrounds that are easy to cut out. So we're going to go through the process of cutting one of these out in Photoshop. And then I cut the rest out for you for the sake of time, because it can be really time consuming. Okay, so that's just to show you kind of where I got stock imagery from. So there's a tutorial file that you have to download here, and it's got an Apple JPEG in it, and you're going to see the rest of the file types are PNG files, which means they carry transparency. So if I do a preview of the Apple, you're going to see that it has a white background here. That's the one we're going to cut out in Photoshop. The rest of them I've already cut out for the purposes of this tutorial. So just like that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and what you can do is we're gonna use Photoshop and After Effects for this tutorial. So go ahead and launch both of them if you'd like. We're just gonna be using Photoshop for a few moments. Since I already have Photoshop open, I'm gonna navigate to my Apple file here. You can control or right click and say open with Adobe Photoshop. So we'll go ahead and launch that. And we're gonna just go ahead and cut this apple out real quick. So basically what we need to do is cut it out, get rid of the background, save a copy with a transparent background. So the first thing I'm gonna have you do, oftentimes when you open just a photograph like this, it's gonna say background and it's gonna have a little lock on it. You can go ahead and just toggle that lock, and it's gonna unlock the background for you so that you can achieve some things, some manipulations. All right, and then we're gonna go over to your toolbar. We're gonna go down 1, 2, 3, and here we have the quick selection tool, which can work. There's also, if you click and hold down, there's an object selection tool that can work really, really well. So let's go ahead and choose that one. This is what it looks like. And what I want you to do is just click and drag around the apple. So it's gonna think for a little while, and it went ahead and grabbed the apple. The pink is showing us what it has not selected. So that's great. It's done a pretty good job. Let's just go ahead and zoom in a little bit. We've got a little bit on the bottom that it didn't quite catch, but I'm okay with that because the motion design that we're going to do is going to be so quick that the viewer is not going to notice that a dark shadow is missing from the apple. So we're going to go ahead and leave that. In Photoshop, by the way, if you hit your spacebar, you can use that hand tool to navigate around the canvas. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm just going to leave this selection as is, and I think you can go in and tweak it if you do the quick selection tool. Like if you wanted to zoom in and do some really refined selecting, it just looks pretty good. I think you can go in with your quick selection tool and make some adjustments on here, but I don't think I really need to. So part of this edge is going to look a little bit rough. You can see like right here, the selection kind of comes in a little bit. Let's see if I can refine that just a little bit. Yes, I was able to do that. So with the quick selection tool, you can go in and make some refinements. Just so you know, there is a add to the selection and deselect from the selection. Can go ahead and add that there. So the thing is that this is a little bit rough in some areas. And like I said, again, the apple's only going to be showing for a second. This isn't like a still image that's going to be printed largely that the viewer is going to be staring at. So we don't need to, really take a lot of time over those really tiny details. But what I am going to do is I'm going to feather the selection so that the edges of the apple are a little bit blurred. So what I want you to do with the selection here is go to Select and Mask. You're going to get a new dialog box here for Properties. And what I want you to do is take the Smooth under Global Refinements and just bring it up to maybe 12 or so. And then the feathering, we're going to have you feather that out by maybe like 2.5 pixels. And it's going to create a little bit of a blur around the edges just to soften that a little bit and make that rough cut look a little less noticeable. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Now what we need to do is we need to make a mask for this apple. So we're going to come on down to the bottom of the Photoshop panel, the bottom of the layers panel right here. The mask button is this button right here. It's like a rectangle with a little circle in the middle. Go ahead and click that, and you're going to see that the background is masked out and sort of disappears, which is great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and crop this image a little bit because we don't need all this extra real estate hanging around for the file. So we're going to go up to our tools and go to the 5th down, which is the crop tool, or C for a quick hotkey. We're going to take the sides and drag them in a bit and then hit enter. And now we have our apple cut out and ready to go as an asset that we can bring into our motion design project in After Effects. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go to Save a Copy. So not save, but save a copy. And this is the important part. The format should be a PNG, not a JPEG. If it's a JPEG, it's just going to make the background white, which is basically what we had in the first place. So Apple PNG, it's going to my fruit tutorial already. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. You can leave this to the large size default, hit OK. And now we have an apple with a background that's been cut out, and that looks pretty good. Okay? And that's all you need to do in Photoshop. And so like I said, I went through and did that for all the other fruits just for the sake of time, but that's how that process works and how you can get a transparent image to bring into your motion design project. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and quit Photoshop. You don't really need to save the Photoshop project or anything. You can if you want. I'm not going to save mine. And now we're ready to go, and we're ready to start in on our After Effects project. So I'm going to bring up my dialog box here. I'm going to say New Project. And we're going to stick to the script for the previous tutorials. We're going to say New Composition, 600 by 600. This will probably be the last one that we do at this size. We're going to move into video here shortly. Anyways, so I'm going to name this Fruit. And then 24 frames. And then this one, I think it might be better to do like 8 seconds. I'm not really sure yet. So we'll just make this one 8 seconds and just kind of see how it goes. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to have you do is we need to bring in all of our assets, and then after that we're going to pick a color scheme for the project. So from your project tab right here, let's go ahead and go to File, Import, File. You can do multiple files, but usually those are in different locations. Since all of our files are in the same folder, we can just do File and import them all at the same time. But just so you know, you can import multiple files from different folders. The quick hotkey for this is Command-I. So I'm going to choose File. I'm going to navigate to Fruit. And then we're going to go ahead and just select all of these, except we don't need the Apple JPEG. So let's see if it'll only let me select all of them. It looks like I can't command select these. Oh, yes, I can. Okay. Let's see. All right, so we've got everything but the Apple JPEG, which we don't need. So we're going to go ahead and open that. And so all of our assets are over here now. If you click on them, you can see that it gives you a little preview up here, which is nice depending on how your files are named. If you're an organized digital producer of content, you name everything, but not everybody does, so that can be kind of nice depending on the situation. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is pick a color scheme, because I'm going to show you how to change. We're going to do a different color background that's high contrast for what the color of the fruit is. And like I said, this is all about working with JPEG assets and then multiple background layers of color and things like that. So now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and open a browser, and you're going to navigate to Adobe Color. So let's see. So Adobe Color, and you can just sign in with whatever credentials you have. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I can X out of this. Okay. So what we need is something that's really a bright color, and then we need to create a new library and call it Fruit. So let's create the new library Fruit. I was working on a project that had to do with plants, so that was my last project. What I'm going to do is hit plus over here. This is where all your library stuff is held. And we're going to say Fruit. And you're going to create that. And it's going to save whatever we do in here to Fruit. We're not going to create one. You can if you want. You can certainly play around with this. This is really, really kind of cool and nice. But I prefer to just explore color schemes that are already out there. So you can search for whatever you want, but I'm looking for bright colors, more of a rainbow spectrum to go in the background of my different color fruits. So I'm just going to start with bright colors. And I'm just going to kind of look until I find something that I like. And so I think for me, this one actually jumped out at me right away, right here. I kind of like this dramatic blue mixed in with all of these really bright colors over here. So what I can do is there's a number of different things you can do. You can add to library, which is what we're going to do. You can favorite this. You can also download the JPEG of this color scheme if you wanted to. And this last one is, I think it's maybe sharing or something. I'm not sure. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and add this to the library. So added to library. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Now, if we come into After Effects, the libraries panel isn't something that's just open by default. If you come up over here in the top right side, you're going to see there's a libraries panel option here. And you're going to see that I have a different library open, but here's fruit. There's a recent panel here, and the one that you created last is always going to be here. So here are my fruit colors. So I'm all good to go. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create some background, some solid backgrounds. And let me see, we need to know how many fruits we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for this, what I'm thinking is that I'll do 1 second for each piece of fruit. Actually, that might be too long. I'm not exactly sure. But what we can do is kind of lay it out and then just see how it's feeling. If it's too long, we might need to do half of a second for everything. So what you can do is just go ahead and start taking your fruit assets and just dragging and dropping. You're going to hit your S key right away for scale so that you can scale those to the size of your canvas. And you can, bring them down in whatever order you like. Okay, I now have these all at relatively the same size. So what I'm going to do is kind of test the amount of time how the amount of time looks when I put them at maybe like 1 second. So there's a couple of different ways you can adjust your timeline. One way to do it is you can come to the end of your layer and you see this double arrow that pops up as you hover. You can take it and pull it in and out. That's one way to do it. So I might come from the back and pull that in. And now I've got my strawberry up for 1 second. Another way you can do it is for the orange, if I go down to 2 seconds, because I'm testing how long 1 second looks, you can hit your bracket key. These are the keys that are to the right of your P key. I'm going to hit my right bracket key, and it's going to cut this layer to the end of the 2 second. It's not quite perfect though, so I'm going to push it in a little bit. And then if I come to the right side and I hit the other bracket key, it does cut it, but it sends the layer shooting the other way. So I'm going to Command Z that. It's not really my preferred way of doing it. I think that, for me, I like to just drag them in. I like to just drag them in from the side, but it's kind of an old school way of doing it. But the bracket cutting is a good option too, but it can be a little bit finicky. Okay, so now I have the orange for 1 second and the strawberry for 1 second. So I'm just gonna kind of see how that's feeling. And that's feeling it's feeling a little bit slow, I think. So I think I'm gonna nudge these in to be half a second, which is a good marker. So this might be quite a bit shorter than 8 seconds. It just sort of depends. If I bring this in, for another half second, let's see how that's looking. So that feels a little bit better in terms of timing. So what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and bring these in and time them at half seconds. And you can use your scrubbing tool if you like to help you measure where where that is. Okay, so now we have this fruit that changes every half second, and I'm really liking the timing of that. And we're going to go ahead and pause where we're at in this video since we're about 20 minutes in. So if you would like, go ahead and save your project. So we're gonna save as, I'm gonna go ahead and just save this in my fruit folder, my fruit tutorial folder. So go ahead and save your project. If you're continuing on to the next video, no problem. If it's time to take a break, like I said, good time to save your project and walk away. Okay, so we're gonna stop there and then we're gonna move into the second part of this in the next video. All right, thanks everybody.